And we're back on Rise and Thrive. Today, our guest is Lorén Spears of the Tamaquag Museum. Lorén, everything that you're talking about, just bringing people together and bridging, doing the bridging and creating opportunities. It's such a, and it becomes a ripple effect too. So the impact that you have and the work that the Tamaquag Museum does just spreads so far and wide. And like you said, there's probably a lot of things that you're not even aware of, you know, how powerful that this work that you're doing is. I don't, how do you do it all? So, you know, I understand, you know, it's moved from a volunteer organization, and when you came on as executive director, you were very focused on creating an infrastructure and putting things down on paper, and which is so fantastic, and really just thinking about the big picture and down the road and beyond yourself there, right? And so I think that's really a brilliant, that's so brilliant.
Well, my mother doesn't like it, but I always say to the
Really?
board, no, she doesn't like
Oh,
what I say.
oh,
Like,
okay.
way back when in like 2010, I said to the board, what happens when I get run over by a bus? And that's why she doesn't like when I say that.
Okay,
But the reality that
right.
phrasing was, you have to prepare. Like, so we
Yes.
went through the floods of 2010 and it was horrific. And now
Mm-hmm.
we're 10 years later in this unprecedented pandemic.
Right.
And thanks to our donors, our funders, our staff that just like,
Yeah.
and board that just like was like, okay, we're just going to dig deep and we're just going
Right.
to keep doing, you know, I think that we had that tenacity this time from the lessons learned last
Mm.
time. One of the things that we learned last time is we did not have a strong enough foundation. So we
Mm.
have been steadily building that. The board has been strengthening the board structures and the work that they do on behalf of the organization. You know, the staff has been building the structure. I mean, in 2010, I was the staff.
Well,
Now,
yeah,
you
and
know,
to be right, and to be fair, like if you are the staff and you have a group of volunteers, there's only so much you can do, and you're really just going. Like you're just surviving. You don't
right.
have the ability to really sit down and take a look at everything. So,
Well, I think
you
a
know,
couple of things that happened that really helped us is we had the opportunity through the Rhode Island Foundation to be part of their Expansion Arts program, which is a 3-year training program that I participated in and two board members. This is back in like '07. And I think we learned a lot in that process and we implemented some of it,
mhm.
but we've been steadily implementing what we learned over that 10 years, over the next 10 years. Because you can't just snap your fingers and have everything in
Yeah.
place. And as much as you'd like to, but every day we strive toward that next level. You know, you don't want to lose who you are in strengthening, but you want to ensure, like, my goal is to ensure that this is here for my great great grandchildren,
Right,
you know, that it's a place they could become an intern at someday because there's
right.
a structure for
Yes.
consistent internships and opportunities for job development. And that's our IEN program. And to have the opportunity to be like we were as kids and come here to the many Thanksgivings and cultural events that we have that are open to the public, but they're really about us as well
Yes.
as Indigenous people and about our community and our culture, and continuing that forward and being part of it. When I see the young people that come and they're like, oh, I'll do the storytelling, you know, for you for Cranberry Thanksgiving, and they're willing and happy to do that, or I'll do a dance demonstration, or I'll lead a fashion show. You know, sometimes there are interns, but once they've been our intern, they come back again and just volunteer too. So, like, just to be part of this community, this network, which is so important. The other thing that I think really has been absolutely amazing is I've talked funders into giving us funding for staff when everyone has told us they don't fund staff.
Yeah. Hmm.
And we had literally, it was myself and a marketing person part time when I talked them into the assistant director position. And it was back to that when I get run over by a bus concept. If there's nobody there to
Hmm.
help with any of these things, we can't do it. And Silver Moon LaRose has been just like the perfect person for this. She is so great
Hmm.
in so many ways, but in
Yes.
wrangling the structures. When she came on in 2016, our structures were floating around in my head. They were
Hmm.
not on any paper.
Hmm.
And, I might have had it scribbled somewhere. I'm the queen of scribbling on paper.
Me
And,
too.
but I'm not really a typist. So, like, to
Yeah.
type down is like a
I have
whole.
all these papers. Yeah.
Yeah, so she wrangled so many systems into place. And then each person that we've brought on, they wrangle more. When the, collections manager came on, then they're wrangling the policies for collections care. And we have a committee from the board that oversees that, reviews. Then our archivist came on and
It's so
wrangling all
exciting.
those things. And then,
Yeah.
having additional educators like Lindsay's on. And what is she doing? She's organizing the lesson planning so that as we're doing each presentation that starts getting documented. I'm good at doing what I do, but I often don't document it so that someone else can follow behind. But that's what I've been telling the staff, that as we continue to grow, we need to get things on paper so that when new staff comes in, there's something to follow, there's
Hmm.
trainings that can happen,
Hmm.
all of those kinds of things. Where when we were really small, the first time Lindsay was here, she trained because she stood beside me. Every education program I did, she was with me. Well, as we grow, that becomes impossible
Right.
to do it that way. And so we have
Hmm.
to come up with new strategies to build in those strengths. There'll probably be opportunities for them to view things, but not at the same level that she did it the first time around. So that's part of the growth, and it's interesting because we're doing new facility development. We are still a couple of years out before we'll get somewhere, but it's something that we're looking at because we're really tiny here. It has a really personal feeling. People come in, they get basically a tour, even when it's just a drop by day, when it's not COVID. Um, we often gave them a good highlights tour, even if we said we weren't going to.
Uh-huh.
We tended to. But there was always somebody there to ask a question and get a indigenous perspective on something. And our interns would come in and tell us. I mean, our interns, I think of like our current high school intern who's a senior, Nikeki, he's just phenomenal
Hmm.
at giving a tour. So people get a whole history lesson in these tours. And we're like, when we get a little bigger, we want to make sure we still have that. And that's why the internship program is critical. We want to do the other end and have an elder, for lack of a better word, docent program, because elders have so much knowledge, but they don't have the
Yes.
energy that the young people have. But they could be, demonstrating finger weaving and talking to
Right.
people, or just sitting by a particular exhibit where they might share their thoughts and things like that, which is so, I think that's what makes us vibrant, is that first person experience.
Yes.
And when we get a little bigger, we want to make sure that that's there. We want to make sure that our artists can impact our new plans and have outdoor exhibit spaces. And, we have gardens here and we have outdoor spaces that we use. And as we grow, we want to continue to have those kinds of connections to the land.
And how are you handling this, the quarantine now with, because you did have so many events and programs on the land, and that's so much a part of the experience of coming to Tamaqua. So how are you handling that now?
So it was tricky at first. We did flip right away to virtual programming. And so we've been doing that right since March.
Right.
And that has certainly increased over time as other people got their feet under them and what they were trying to do. So we've been doing lots of virtual programming. Some that we're doing ourselves, like the Children's Hour,
Right.
the
And the
Sci-Fi Book
mhm.
Club, our Quarantine Creative Series, which is phenomenal. We have
Oh
another
yes.
coming up at the end of this month with Catherine Myrtle, who's a young Indigenous woman that's going to be sharing her artwork. They have been phenomenal. People can catch the archived on our YouTube page, but we've been really mixing in like their experience during this pandemic and just social justice issues. I mean, people have been, painting about murdered and missing Indigenous women, the campaign around that, about, voting and voting rights, and about, homelessness, and historical trauma, and just our culture and how it comes through in the art that they do. And so there's been some great interviews around those, just some great stories and beautiful, stunning artwork. Um, and so those are the first things that we did. We actually did our Strawberry Thanksgiving event virtual.
Mm,
We partnered with tribal members and did virtual August meeting powwow with our tribal
right.
community. We did a virtual Cranberry Thanksgiving week, where we showed, Johnny cake demonstrations and, pictures from the archive, video from the archive, and things like that. So that's been a little hard not to have those kinds of events. But in August, we did a slow open for private tours. And so that has been really fantastic. We've been doing quite a lot weekly of private tours where families can come. They have to call
Great.
or email and reserve a space. We're doing it 6 days a week. And, you know, doing all the preventative things. So there has to be the time to do the sanitizing before, there's the tour and experience. We've taken away all our touch and feel, which we miss dearly, but we did
Hmm.
leave for children our scavenger hunt. We went out and purchased plastic clipboards because we had those wooden ones that don't
Hmm.
wash really well.
Right.
And so we still have our clipboards for scavenger hunts. So that's one thing that they can do, that they can kind of engage a little bit. And then I thought was a brilliant idea. We'd gotten in a grant, a new Bose speaker and microphone system, because our old one was from 1975, I think. So it finally died. And we needed it for speakers. Sometimes speakers speak really soft, unlike
Right.
my big voice. Um, and so we're actually using that. So as people are touring the gallery, we're in one spot and we can move
Okay.
maybe 4 to 6 feet away from the speaker and talk to them. But we can kind of guide them through the museum
That is
without actually
fantastic.
walking with them. And
Yes.
and that really works,
Such great problem solving.
yeah, it works really well. And we have a brand new exhibit that's called Warrior Women, that's speaking to the 19th Amendment and just Indigenous women's impact. It has all of our past honorees before this year on the wall, as well as national figures that either intersected with Tamaquag or were just really meaningful to us in our experience. Everything from Gladys Tantaquidgeon, who is the Mohegan founder of the Tantaquidgeon Museum, which is the
Mm,
oldest Native museum in the nation, to people like Harjo, that's the poet laureate of the United States, and Winona LaDuke, who
mhm.
could put up a thing and talk about warrior women and not have her
Right.
in there. And of course, there's many, and the two women that had gotten into Congress in the last election,
Hmm.
things like that.
That's
Um,
great.
just and the thing is, it's surprising to me how many people come to the museum that don't know these women.
Hmm.
And I'm like almost stunned. I'm like,
Because
yeah,
they're so much a part of our experience and our worldview,
part of our,
right?
yes, yes. And I'm like, you can't think about environmental justice and activism and not
Yeah.
think of Winona LaDuke.
Right.
So it's a great opportunity to introduce these people to some of the people that aren't aware of them, and some of the people that we're talking to that are very involved in environmental issues locally, that are not aware of her, so that we can give them, the websites for her and encourage them to
That's
check her
so
out, read
wonderful.
books and all of those kinds of things.
That's excellent. So people can come, they have to call to make an appointment.
Or
And how far in advance are you booking out now?
so November's pretty full.
I'm sure.
But we are booking out. We can always, it depends. Each day has some wiggle here and there, and there's more than one educator, so depending on the schedule for each one, we can sometimes fit people in. But it
Okay.
is trickier on the busier days, because we have to have the break in between to do the full cleaning before the next
Right.
tour.
Right.
Unlike a normal year, you clean for the day and you're done. And now you've got to
It's
clean in between every person to make sure that everybody's safe. People do have to wear a mask. Our
mm-hmm.
staff wears masks, and we have the shields, to add that extra layer of protection both ways.
Mm-hmm.
But for our staff that are seeing, multiple new groups, we're really trying to ensure their safety. And especially since, we know that COVID-19 is hitting Native communities and other underserved communities and diverse communities very hard. And we want to ensure that our staff is safe. And those
Yeah.
frontline people are Indigenous, so we
Right.
want to ensure that they're safe.
Right. Okay, so if you want to make an appointment, you can email. All the information is on tomaquagmuseum.org. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with Lorén Spears.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
Because of you, I feel not alone in this world. And you let me know that I'm one person to make you feel wanted.
(150/90).
180/111.
160/110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
And we're back on Rise and Thrive. Lorén Spears is here and has been filling us in on all the incredible work that's going on at the Tamaquag Museum. And I want to jump back to the honoring because you have an incredible auction associated with the honoring this year, and it's online this time.
Yes, a very first for us to do.
And
it
there are some great pieces on there, and even vacations. So can you share and talk about how people can get involved?
Certainly. So we are so excited to do this very first inaugural online auction. We have some really great, like amazing indigenous art, everything from paintings to pottery to beadwork, you name it, gorgeous things. And we also have you can have a trip, a vacation home on Block Island.
That looks amazing.
It's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a 3-story home, I think, of your own, with balconies and decks off that can see the water, a pathway right to the ocean. It's for the off season, anytime. I think it was, I want to say October 15th to May 15th, something like that. And so phenomenal opportunity. And another really cool one is the South County Tourism Pack, which people have not caught on to how cool this is. It is a helicopter ride along the coast of the ocean in Rhode Island.
Wow.
Dinner for 2 at the Bridge Restaurant in Westerly, Rhode Island, and 2 nights at the Shelter Harbor Inn, which is this gorgeous historic inn in the Charlestown Westerly line. Absolutely a phenomenal, great date weekend. You know, anniversary, something fun for.
How beautiful.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity. There's you know, book packs and Tamaquag swag and book packs. We have several books that we've participated in that are in it. I believe The Key into the Language of America might be in it. We put a couple of them in books that we've participated in the kit, as well as t-shirts and postcards, vintage postcards, and all kinds of great things. There's really a lot of wonderful auction items. And we're thankful to all the people that donated those auction items to us to ensure our success.
Yes.
And to all the people that are donating, people are so generous. I
Yeah.
have to say, we this year, our honoring is free. Normally it's like, a dinner. And so there's costs to that and costs to the thing. That's how we made our money, but we just couldn't understand how to do it with a ticket price virtually. So we decided it would be free to everybody, but you can, when you click to be an attendee, which technically you don't have to do, but if you click to be an attendee, to kind of register, you can register for free, but then you can also register for donation price points. And people are so generous and have been doing
That's
so.
wonderful.
That's such a blessing. And then of course our sponsors have been phenomenal. So many of them that sponsored in the past, even with it being virtual, were still supportive and willing to sponsor us. And then our funders too, through this COVID-19, there have been specialty COVID-19 funds, resiliency funds, from New England Foundation for the Arts and Rhode Island Council on the Humanities and the Rhode Island Council on the Arts and United Way. Those are funders that we've had, and we're just so blessed and lucky to have those supporters that really have helped us to be resilient and to weather this really turbulent time for everyone. And we know we're not out of the woods yet, and we hope blessings and good sustainability for every organization and every person out there, that they're healthy and that their families are healthy and can make it through this time till we get to that vaccine. But it's coming, and we just have to make it through this probably a bit of a long winter, but I know that we'll get there. And our ideas around Thanksgiving is to remember our blessings. That's why Indigenous people have 13 Thanksgivings, and why our organization celebrates those Thanksgivings. And our Nakomo, I'm sure, will be virtual this year, but that's that idea of just being thankful and for all your blessings. And I think that as an organization, that helps us stay grounded and to be thankful for all our staff and all the hard work they do, the interns who jump right in and learn so much, but also give so much of their energy and enthusiasm. It's just remarkable. I mean, Haley, our newest IEN intern, she came on board and she whipped together that auction. Like, we were at our capacity organization. We were
That's incredible.
Just before this was coming through. I mean, it's hard to do all this editing and these videos.
Yes, it's a ton of work.
And we don't, we're a small organization. We couldn't afford to get like a production crew to come in. So our team, Quana LaRose, who's our marketing associate, he's our production team, along with Silver Moon and the other staff, and Tony from giving us images from the archives and all of those kinds of things. It really has been a lot of teamwork to make this happen. And so we're so blessed for our staff. And our other IEN intern, Laurel, she flipped our in-store gift shop to online. We had attempted it a year and a half ago and wasn't successful at doing it. And she has flipped it, and it's been very successful since July, being online. And it's been really a blessing to have these young people that have tech skills and energy and enthusiasm and great artistic eyes in taking the photography for these things. Because you can put it up there, but if it doesn't look good, it doesn't.
It's really right, because it's online. You really have to have that strong visual.
You can understand that as a photographer yourself. And I'm not a photographer. I'm like, for every 100 pictures I take, one is worthy of even sort of being called good.
But really, the online store looks fantastic. It's really easy to navigate. There's so many great pieces on there, and really nice price points too. That's the other thing that I noticed about it, is that it's accessible. So if you don't have a huge budget, there are some really beautiful gifts that you can get on a budget, and then there are higher end things that you can purchase.
And our artists, that's one of the trainings that we did for our artists a while back, is the idea of having multiple price points, because you have your original painting that might go for a lot, but if you can have prints or cards, it gives people an entry point to your art and to your artwork. But also people can come here and have an authentic experience. They're buying something that's made from a native artist,
Right.
or it's a print or a card from a native original piece. And people love to have that opportunity, or to be able to buy a game like Ring and Pin that's been made by a native artist. I mean, he has artwork that's in the really high end, but he makes these, like you said, entry point, that you can buy a game for $15, or a zipper pull for 10 or something like that. That gives someone some, but yet it's this really well done,
Exactly.
handmade,
It's special and unique.
ear antler hatchet or something to that effect.
Right.
It's
Right.
with shell or feather earrings or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah, it's incredible to be able to have that, and to have that access without having to be in Rhode Island and come to the museum physically. So we have about 5 minutes.
We've
What?
had visitors from all of the last
Oh, I know.
all the way to California.
I know you have visitors from all over the world.
Well, I meant for the online store. So
for the online store. Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So I think, like you're saying, there is this silver lining, because we're learning to this whole situation that we've been through this year, is that we're learning how to navigate these new ways. And then we can incorporate them when we hopefully go back to a little bit of normalcy and personal connection. But we have a few minutes left, and I know you wanted to talk about the blog and a couple of other things. So if you can quickly touch on those.
Yes, on our website, we have something that's called the Belongings blog. If you go along the top, there's a button there to just push Belongings blog. So it's our blog, and we put lots of, what's really cool this year is we've been adding from the archives. So Tony Belts, who's our archivist, he's been taking things from our archive. For example, there's an audio of Princess Redwing that someone recorded, donated to the museum. It was on a cassette. He played it. It turned out to be from a TV show. And so you can read the blog, click it, go to YouTube, see pictures, and hear the voice of Princess Redwing, which is so cool.
Incredible.
Yeah, so there's things, talking about voting and the census and why we weren't really included in that, and the history around that. You can use our guide to land acknowledgements, because there's a lot of people trying to figure out what that's all about and how they should do it. So we've created a guide.
That's excellent. That's so necessary.
So there's all these things in our Belongings blog that help people understand Indigenous culture. It's good for students. It's good for faculty. It's good for the average American that just wants to know more, as is the road tour. It's I put that in the link as well, but it's roadtour.org, road like Rhode Island, RHOD.
Okay.
And we're number 35. We're show number 35, and it's this really cool website that tells about Rhode Island history, but it's the first People's Road Tour is the one that we did.
Oh, wow.
That speaks to Canonicus and Myantonomy and Ninigret and Quiapin from that 1600s time period, goes into the 1700s with the Indian Church, and then goes forward all the way to the 21st century with the Food Sovereignty Initiative. So you can learn more about my grandparents, Eleanor and Ferris Dove. You can learn about Ellis and Tarzan Brown, who was a Narragansett Olympian and two-time winner of the Boston Marathon, so all these really interesting people. I mean, there was a million other things we could do, but our goal was 10
That's phenomenal.
in our tour. And so that's a really great resource and opportunity for people to see. And so those are the kinds of partnerships that we create to create more visibility for Indigenous people, more access to resources for teachers, educators, and families. And if you can't come to Rhode Island, you can tour it virtually.
Right, exactly. Thank you for sharing all of those things. I'll put these links on our social media. And whoa, it's been a lot. So we'll wrap up. I'm really excited. TamaquagMuseum.org. If you want to get on there, there's all the links are there. Check out the last honoring. Tonight is the last honoring with Matika Wilbur.
Live
and
at 6 o'clock.
Live at 6 o'clock. It's wonderful. So definitely tune into that. Check out all the auction items, Christmas shopping on TamaquagMuseum.org's shopping page. There's so much. So please visit and check it out, and visit in person when we're able. Lorén? I so admire you. You are such an inspiration. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to speak with us and to share everything that you're doing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Katabatash. Yes, and right back at you. I'm so proud of you and everything that you're doing in this wonderful show, which is just a small tidbit of all the work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next week when we'll have Layli Long Soldier on next Friday, November 20th, on Rise and Thrive on Usla Media. Have a great weekend.